Gilded cages, the flash of cameras was relentless. Harrison Reed's publicist had assured him the paparazzi wouldn't be at Eloise's gallery opening. But here they were, documenting what was about to become his third high-profile breakup in 18 months. "Harrison, is it true you offered Eloise $10 million to stay another year?" shouted a reporter from behind a velvet rope. Harrison maintained his practiced smile, the one that had graced the covers of Fortune and Bloomberg Businessweek. At 38, he'd built Red Capital into a $20 billion hedge fund through calculated risks and perfect timing. But his personal life had become a liability, an unpredictable market he couldn't seem to master. "Harrison," Eloise whispered through clenched teeth, her smile equally practiced. "We need to talk. Now." They slipped into a private alcove displaying abstract sculptures valued at more than most Manhattan apartments. "This isn't working," she said, twisting the 8-carat diamond on her finger. "I'm giving this back. Is it the prenup terms?" Harrison asked, already mentally calculating what adjustments might fix this situation. "We can revisit It's that you just tried to solve this with money," Eloise interrupted, her voice tight with frustration. "Like everything else. I wanted a partner, not a portfolio manager." The diamond landed in his palm with a finality that would make tomorrow's headlines. 3 days later, Harrison sat in his penthouse office overlooking Central Park, reading the tabloid coverage of what they were calling the gallery goodbye. His PR director, Vivian, spread printouts across his desk like battle plans. "The narrative is getting problematic," she said. 3 relationships in less than 2 years makes you look discerning?" Harrison offered. "Damaged," Vivian corrected. "Like something's wrong with the product." Harrison raised an eyebrow. "The product being me." "Precisely. We need to change the storyline. A stable, strategic relationship would neutralize this pattern of failed connections." Harrison swirled 18-year-old whiskey in a crystal glass, calculating. "What are you suggesting?" "You need someone extraordinary," Vivian continued. "Someone who elevates your brand but also appears genuine. The public's tired of obvious arrangements." Later that evening, Harrison attended a charity gala alone. The whispers followed him across the ballroom, speculation about Eloise, about his apparent inability to maintain a relationship despite his billions. It was the first time his money felt like an obstacle rather than an advantage. His phone buzzed with a message from Vivian. "Compiled initial candidate list. Will present tomorrow. Think Audrey Hepburn meets tech entrepreneur." Harrison pocketed his phone and caught his reflection in a decorative mirror. His tailored tuxedo cost more than what most people earned in months. His watch could purchase a luxury car. Yet something hollow lingered behind his eyes, something his wealth statements never captured. At home, he entered his palatial penthouse to perfect silence. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a glittering Manhattan, a city he'd conquered financially, yet somehow failed to find belonging in. He loosened his tie and poured another drink. Tomorrow, Vivian would present her list of suitable partners, women selected for maximum brand alignment. The strategy was sound. After all, everything was a transaction if you understood the true currency. Harrison opened his laptop to review acquisition targets for the coming quarter. Numbers made sense. They didn't reject you at gallery openings or question your capacity for emotional connection, but as midnight approached, he found himself staring at Eloise's parting words in a text message. "You can't purchase forever." "Harrison." He closed the laptop, an unfamiliar emptiness expanding in his chest. For the first time in his meticulously managed life, Harrison Reed wondered if there were things his fortune couldn't buy. Asterisk, the woman in the garden the morning after the gala. Harrison sat in Vivian's sleek office as she presented her curated list of potential partners. Bianca Wolf. 32, fashion designer with royal connections, Vivian said, sliding across a glossy photo of a willowy blonde. Sophia Chun, 29, tech founder who just made the Forbes 30 under 30, and Olivia Westbrook, 34, philanthropist from Old Money who runs 3 major foundations. Harrison examined each profile with the same clinical detachment he applied to investment opportunities. "These women are all perfect," he said, the word somehow feeling hollow. That's the point, Vivian replied with professional efficiency. We'll arrange chance meetings over the next few weeks. By summer, you should be in a stable, media-friendly relationship that repairs your image. Harrison nodded, the strategy sound from a business perspective. Yet as he left Reed Capital's towering headquarters, something unexpected happened. He kept walking past his waiting car. Sir? His driver called after him. I'll walk today, Thomas, Harrison replied, suddenly craving something unscripted. 15 blocks later, Harrison found himself in a part of the city he rarely visited. Here, the buildings were shorter, the storefronts less polished. A hand-painted sign caught his eye. Westside Community Gardens, volunteers welcome. Through an iron gate, he glimpsed an unexpected patch of green amid the concrete landscape raised garden beds. Fruit trees in containers and a small greenhouse. Curiosity drew him inside, where he encountered a woman kneeling in soil, completely absorbed in her task. Hand me that trowel, would you? She asked without looking up, apparently mistaking him for someone else. Harrison, still in his $3,000 suit, hesitated before picking up the garden tool. Thanks, she said as he handed it to her. Only then did she look up, revealing a sun-freckled face and eyes the color of amber. Oh, you're not Dante? She stood, wiping soil-covered hands on worn jeans. Are you here about the volunteer program? Before Harrison could correct her misunderstanding, she continued, I'm Josephine Parker, garden director. We always need help, especially from people willing to get their hands dirty. Something about her directness caught Harrison off guard. She looked at him, really looked, without the veil of recognition or calculation he'd grown accustomed to. I was just passing by, he found himself saying. The garden, it's unexpected here. Josephine smiled. That's why it matters. This neighborhood's a food desert, no fresh produce for 20 blocks. We're changing that, one tomato plant at a time. She gestured to the plots around them. These feed over 50 families. All this from a vacant lot? It wasn't vacant, just neglected. Josephine handed him a watering can. Like most valuable things? Before Harrison realized what was happening, he'd been recruited to water seedlings while Josephine explained the garden's mission. For 45 minutes, no one mentioned hedge funds, investments, or his net worth. The conversation revolved around soil quality and community engagement topics entirely absent from his normal sphere. You're good at this, Josephine observed as Harrison carefully watered delicate seedlings. What did you say your name was? A strange impulse seized him. Harry, he said, offering the childhood nickname no one had used in decades. Harry Reed? Well, Harry Reed, we need volunteers on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The community center runs a workshop teaching kids coding basics after their time in the garden. The whole ecosystem to technology pipeline, you know? Harrison's phone buzzed insistently, likely Vivian, wondering where he'd disappeared to. Reality intruded. I should go, he said, suddenly aware of his muddied shoes and the incongruity of his presence here. Think about Tuesdays, Josephine called as he headed toward the gate. We're planting berry bush next week. Back in his penthouse that evening, Harrison found himself researching community gardens while ignoring Vivian's meeting request to discuss operation. Perfect match. The contrast between Josephine's soil-covered hands and the manicured perfection of his potential matches left him oddly unsettled. On impulse, he clicked on the community garden's modest website, finding a page with Josephine's brief biography. She had a master's in environmental science, had rejected corporate opportunities to build community spaces, and believed in cultivation over acquisition, a philosophy entirely counter to his life's work. Harrison closed his laptop and walked to the window, looking down at the city he'd conquered financially. For the first time in years, he felt like he'd glimpsed something authentic, something his wealth hadn't manufactured. Tuesday, he decided. He would return on Tuesday, not as Harrison read The Billionaire, but as Harry, a man with muddied shoes and no particular importance. What began as a momentary diversion was about to complicate everything. Borrowed identity. Harrison told himself it was merely curiosity that brought him back to the garden the following Tuesday. He'd swapped his bespoke suit for purchased that morning jeans and a plain button-down that his stylist would have vetoed immediately. The casual clothes felt like a costume, which, in a way, they were. "Harry, you came back?" Josephine's genuine delight caught him off guard as she handed him gardening gloves. Perfect timing. The berry bush just arrived. For the next 2 hours, Harry dug holes alongside volunteers from the neighborhood, a retired teacher named Gwen, 2 college students, and a soft-spoken man named Dante, who worked nights as a hospital orderly. They spoke about their lives with an openness that seemed foreign to Harrison, who carefully constructed his responses to reveal nothing of his actual identity. "What do you do, Harry?" Gwen asked as they worked side by side. "Finance," he answered vaguely. Not a lie, but not the truth either. "Must be nice having flexible hours," Josephine remarked. "Most corporate types can't escape midweek." Harrison nodded, acutely aware of the 3 meetings his coup was handling in his unexplained absence. "I've earned some flexibility," he said, which was certainly true after building Reed Capital from nothing over 15 years after planting. The volunteers gathered around a weathered picnic table where Josephine served homemade lemonade in mismatched cups. The conversation flowed naturally, no networking angles, no subtle probing about net worth or connections. Just people sharing a moment in their day. "Harry, you should come see the tech program after this," Josephine suggested. "The kids are building apps that help track plant growth." Harrison followed her to the modest community center adjacent to the garden. Inside, a dozen children, mostly from the surrounding working-class neighborhood, huddled around outdated laptops. "Our equipment isn't exactly cutting edge," Josephine admitted. "We make do with donations." Harrison watched a girl of about 10 struggling with coding basics on a laptop that belonged in a museum. He felt a pang of something unfamiliar. Was it guilt? His own tech foundation donated millions, but always to high-profile initiatives with maximum publicity value. This place would never have registered on his philanthropic radar. "I might know someone who could help with better equipment," he offered cautiously. "That would be amazing," Josephine said, her hand briefly touching his arm in gratitude. "These kids have so much potential." The casual contact left an impression that lingered hours later as Harrison sat in his penthouse, reviewing Vivian's detailed profiles of his 3 perfect match candidates. "We've arranged lunch with Bianca tomorrow," Vivian reminded him over the phone. "The restaurant has a private terrace intimate but visible enough for the right people to notice." "Fine," Harrison agreed, his mind still partially in the community garden. The next day, lunch with Bianca Wolf was everything Vivian had promised: elegant, strategically visible, and entirely orchestrated. Bianca was undeniably intelligent and poised, her conversation perfectly calibrated to impress. "Your foundation's work in tech education is admirable," she commented over perfected cuisine. "My fashion line is exploring tech integration. Perhaps there's synergy there?" Harrison nodded, responding with practiced charm while part of his mind compared this carefully arranged meeting to the spontaneous lemonade at the garden's picnic table. Over the following 2 weeks, Harrison lived a double life. As himself, he attended strategic dates with Vivian's candidates, a gallery opening with Sophia, a charity gala with Olivia. Each woman was accomplished, beautiful, and would make a perfect addition to his carefully curated life. Yet every Tuesday and Thursday, Harry returned to the garden, where the work was physical and the conversations genuine. He'd arranged anonymous delivery of new laptops to the tech program, watching from across the room as Josephine's face lit up when they arrived. "Someone must be looking out for us," she'd said, never suspecting it was the quiet volunteer who showed up twice weekly. After the 3rd week, Josephine invited Harry for coffee after gardening, at a small neighborhood cafe, the kind Harrison's world never included. She shared her journey from corporate environmental consultant to community garden director. "Everyone thought I was crazy walking away from that salary," she said. "But I was consulting for companies that were part of the problem. I wanted to build something real. Do you ever regret it?" Harrison asked, genuinely curious. Josephine considered this. "I miss certain comforts, But I've never regretted choosing purpose over profit. She looked at him curiously. What about you? Ever wonder if there's more to life than finance? The question hit uncomfortably close to the emptiness Harrison had been feeling lately. Before he could answer, his phone buzzed with a message from Vivian. Decision time. Which of the three? The board is getting impatient. Looking up, Harrison found himself caught between worlds. The authentic connection forming with Josephine and the strategic relationship Vivian was orchestrating. The borrowed identity that had started as a diversion was becoming something much more complicated, dangerous. What had begun as a simple escape was evolving into something Harrison hadn't anticipated. A choice between the life he had built and the person he was becoming in a small community garden, where no one knew his net worth. Truth blossoms. The dichotomy in Harrison's life grew increasingly unsustainable. In the boardroom, he was closing a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. While fielding questions about his developing relationship with Sophia Chun, the tech entrepreneur, Vivian had ultimately selected as his ideal match. Their carefully orchestrated appearances had generated the exact media narrative his PR team desired. Tech titans find love, power couple reshapes industry. Yet every interaction with Sophia felt like a business negotiation, pleasant but performative. Meanwhile, his afternoons as Harry at the garden had become the only hours where Harrison felt genuinely present. You seem distracted, Josephine noted one Thursday as they worked side by side. Transplanting herbs. Over the past month, their post-gardening conversations had deepened. Harrison found himself sharing thoughts he'd never voiced, though always carefully edited to maintain his cover. Just work complications, he replied. Which wasn't entirely untrue. Want to talk about it? She offered, her hands continuing their gentle work with the plants. Harrison hesitated. Have you ever created something that took on a life of its own? Something that doesn't feel like you anymore? Josephine considered this. That's how I feel about this garden sometimes. It started as my project but belongs to everyone now. She smiled. Isn't that the point, though? To create something that outlives our direct involvement? Her perspective was so different from the ownership-obsessed worldview that dominated Harrison's life. In his world, control was everything. In hers, releasing control was the measure of success. You're different from anyone I know, Harrison said without thinking. Good different or concerning different? She asked with a laugh. Essential different, he answered, the honesty surprising even himself. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the garden entrance. A sleek town car had pulled up. Harrison immediately recognized his driver, Thomas. Mr. Reed? Thomas called, scanning the garden. You're 3 o'clock? Harrison froze as Thomas spotted him. Confusion evident on the driver's face at seeing his employer in gardening clothes, hands deep in soil. I'll be right there, Harrison called sharply. Avoiding Josephine's questioning gaze. Reed? She asked. I have to go, he interrupted, pulling off his gloves. I'll explain later. But explanation became impossible the next morning when the business section of every major publication featured photos of Harrison and Sophia at an exclusive restaurant opening. One particularly prominent article highlighted Billionaire Harrison Reed's new romance, with a sidebar about Reed Capital's recent acquisition. Harrison was in his office when his assistant informed him that someone named Josephine Parker was in the lobby, insisting on seeing him. His carefully separated worlds were colliding when Josephine entered his corner office. Her expression was a complex mixture of hurt and anger. Harrison Reed, she said, taking in the expansive view and minimalist luxury of his workspace. CEO of Reed Capital, not Harry the garden volunteer with a vague job in finance. Josephine, I can explain. Explain what? That you were slumming it with us for some reason? Was it amusing to watch us struggle with donated equipment while you could have funded our entire operation with your lunch budget? It wasn't like that, Harrison insisted, realizing how hollow any explanation would sound. Then what was it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you created an elaborate lie. She placed a newspaper on his desk, open to the photo of him and Sophia, while apparently being very busy elsewhere. The woman in the photo, that's not what it seems. Josephine shook her head. I don't care about your girlfriend, Harrison. I care that you pretended to be someone else with me. Was anything you said true? The question struck deeper than Harrison expected. In his duplicity, he'd been more honest with Josephine than with anyone in his real life. The irony wasn't lost on him. Everything I said was true, he answered quietly. Just not complete. Why? The simple question contained volumes. Harrison struggled to articulate what had drawn him to the garden. With you, I wasn't defined by my bank account or company. I was just a person. You could have been that person honestly, Josephine replied. That's the whole point of what we do at the Garden, authentic connection, not performance. She moved toward the door. Goodbye, Harrison. Or Harry, whoever you actually are. After she left, Harrison stood at his window overlooking the city he owned pieces of, feeling strangely dispossessed. His phone buzzed with messages from Vivian about an upcoming charity gala where he and Sophia would make their official debut, solidifying the narrative. His team had carefully constructed, everything was proceeding according to plan. His public image was rehabilitating. Board members were pleased. Yet Harrison felt only the weight of the genuine connection he'd sabotaged through his deception, for the first time. Since building his empire, Harrison Reed questioned whether success by his previous metrics was still what he wanted. Roots and growth. 3 weeks passed without Harrison returning to the garden. He immersed himself in work, attended strategic events with Sophia, and tried to ignore the emptiness that had once been filled by Thursday afternoons planting berry bush and Tuesday mornings helping children code. The media strategy is working perfectly. Vivian reported during their weekly meeting. Your approval ratings are up 18%. The relationship with Sophia is being described as authentic and grounding. The irony of manufacturing authenticity wasn't lost on Harrison. And Sophia? Is she satisfied with the arrangement? Completely. Her company's valuation has increased since your relationship became public. It's mutually beneficial. Harrison nodded. The transactional nature of everything in his life suddenly stark and unsatisfying. That evening, alone in his penthouse, Harrison found himself looking at the community garden's simple website. A new post announced they were in danger of losing their lease. The property owner had received a development offer. The garden and community center needed $2.8 million to purchase the land, outright or face shutdown in 60 days. Without overthinking, Harrison made a call to his foundation director the next morning. He arrived at Reed Capital's executive meeting with an unexpected announcement. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations, he told his stunned board. Effective immediately. Questions erupted around the table about the company, about his relationship with Sophia, about his mental health. Harrison addressed each calmly. The company is stable. My personal life is my own, and I've never been clearer about what matters. Later that day, Harrison visited Sophia at her office space designed to project the same calculated success as his own. You're ending our arrangement, she stated, reading his expression before he spoke. Yes, I'm sorry if that complicates things for you. Sophia's professional mask slipped momentarily, revealing surprising relief. Honestly? The performance was becoming exhausting. My board loved the publicity, but ... She hesitated. But it wasn't real, Harrison finished. Nothing in our world is entirely real, Harrison. That's the price of success. She offered her hand. No hard feelings. We both got what we needed. Did we? Harrison wondered aloud. 2 days later, Harrison arrived at the Westside Community Garden without announcement. The regular volunteers looked up in surprise, recognition dawning as Harry was now clearly the Harrison Reed they'd seen in newspapers. Josephine was in the greenhouse, examining seedlings. She stiffened when she saw him. What are you doing here? I came to volunteer, Harrison said simply. If you'll still have me, as yourself this time. Yes, just Harrison. No Reed Capital, no billions, no strategy. Just someone who missed this place. Josephine's expression remained guarded. Why should I trust that? You shouldn't, Harrison acknowledged. Trust requires time and consistency. I'm willing to earn it back. Before she could respond, Gwen, the retired teacher, hurried into the greenhouse, clutching a letter. Josephine, the foundation approved our grant. The full amount. We can buy the property. Josephine took the letter, eyes widening as she read. This is impossible. We applied for $50,000 to extend our lease. This is $2.8 million, Harrison supplied quietly. The purchase price plus renovation funds. Josephine looked up sharply. You did this? Anonymously, Harrison clarified. No publicity, no tax benefits, no naming rights. Just the money, no strings attached. Why? Because this place matters. Because what you've built here is real in a way most things in my world aren't. Josephine studied him for a long moment. I'm still angry about the deception. That's fair. And a donation, even an anonymous one, doesn't automatically fix that? I know. But, she continued, we could use help with the kids' coding program on Thursdays, if you're actually interested in showing up consistently. 6 months later, the garden had expanded to include 3 adjacent lots. The community center's tech program had become a model for similar initiatives across the city. Harrison had settled into a new rhythm: mornings at Reed Capital, where he maintained chairman status while relinquishing CEO control, and afternoons at the garden and center. His media presence had diminished significantly. Vivian had resigned in professional frustration over his brand deterioration. The public narrative had shifted from power couple perfection to speculation about his midlife crisis. None of it mattered to Harrison. As he sat beside Josephine on the garden's picnic table, reviewing plans for the spring planting. The board wants me to reconsider the CEO position, he mentioned casually. They're concerned about next quarter's projections. And what do you want? Josephine asked. The question that had changed everything for him months ago. Harrison looked around at the garden, at the children arriving for their tech program, at Dante and Gwen preparing seedlings, at the community they'd all built together. I want this, he said simply. Not as an escape anymore, but as the foundation. Josephine's hand found his, soil still embedded beneath both their fingernails. Then build from here. Harrison Reed, who had once sought the perfect partner to complete his curated image, had instead found something his fortune couldn't purchase, a place where his worth wasn't measured by his wealth, and love that had to be earned rather than acquired. In the garden, where he had once pretended to be someone else, Harrison had finally discovered who he actually was, and that, he realized, was the only real fortune worth having.